Thank you, Professor Ranjan Bal, Professor Ramana, Professor Mishra, for inviting me into this event of this unique learning community. I am actually humbled to be invited to this memorial lecture of this great man, and it's very I could connect to this. I am so happy that I could be talking to the peers and students of this great man. I also saw that he has studied in BHU, and my father also studied in BHU, also in the 50s, and I have grown up hearing such great things about BHU. So that was another immediate connect I could have with Professor Patnaik. Thank you all for inviting me into this. I want to begin my talk with my early career. I joined Wipro's R&D in 1986. And I want to talk about some of my experiences from the 80s, my early experiences, which formed the backbone of my career, also the foundation to my life and mindsets and my thinking. I also understood in the last 10 minutes that Professor Patnaik imbibed similar learnings in all of you. So you'd be able to appreciate what I share now, and it is not out of place. My first manager in Wipro was Chandrasekhar Kapse, and he was more like a friend and very empowering. And very often we will have an argument, a technical argument, and then I will give up and say that, okay, you are the boss, I will do as you say. And that will be after an hour of argument, I'll give up. And then I will move out, and then he will again say, no, no, you sit down. You are going to agree to this because my argument is superior and not because I am the boss. So you keep arguing till you are convinced. With another early supervisor, Sanjeev Reddy, again, I was helpless once, and I said, see, nobody is indispensable. So you go ahead and you do, I don't matter. So then he said, no, everybody is indispensable. So I asked him how. He said, let's see, if you don't do this job, then I have to do this job. And if I have to do this job, there's something else that I'm supposed to do and I won't be able to do. So you need to understand that everybody adds value. And that was a lesson for me again for life, that everybody is indispensable. And when we do a job, we are making somebody's life easier. So that again was an important lesson that I heard early on, which I wanted to share. Another, this was in the mid 90s. For only 1 year, I had a manager, very, very admired person named Victor Jaikaran. Now, I reported to him for only a few months. And at the end, the appraisal that he said, he told me that you express your views too forcefully in the meetings. So I said, so what's wrong? So he said, no, that prevents other people from expressing their views. So this was not just a feedback for me, but I understood much later. I didn't understand it then. I understood much later it was also an insight into what kind of organization he wanted, what kind of organization he wanted to grow. One of the persons who left a lot of impression on me, we called him Jani in Wipro. He was later my co-founder in Mindtree. He was Janaki Raman. For the last 2 years in my career in Wipro, that was 97 to 99, I took on the role of being the head of global R&D's human resources. And the first thing he told me once I started on the role is that lots of people who leave Wipro, they are harassed in the sense that we don't complete their final settlement. You please take care and ensure that their final settlement of all the past people, and from now on, whoever resigns, that final settlement is settled at the earliest. Now, that again gave me an insight into the man. People who have left, we have no more business transactions with them, but he cares for them. He cares that, they should have a neat exit. Um, a few months later, there was somebody, we had a notice period of 2 months, and then somebody was resigning. And then at that time, people who used to resign used to go abroad. And Cisco was the hottest company in the world at that point in time, late 90s, or for people from our profile. And people would join Cisco. And Johnny said that, see, you relieve him before 2 months. He wants to be relieved immediately. Can you please relieve him? And then I asked, why should I do that? And then he said, no, Cisco gives generous stock options to people. And next month, they will give a bonus stock. And so if he joins Wipro if he joins Cisco this month, then he can get double the number of stocks. Now, imagine his concern for somebody who is leaving his team and who is not going to be present. Now, these were some points that made a deep impression on me. Another person who made a deep impression from the early years was Azim Premji. In the 80s, we could meet him twice a year. Once a year, he used to meet all the employees in a very big hall where he will talk of Wipro beliefs, and anybody could ask him a question. And for 1 hour, he used to meet every R&D team. So there was a more technical, more intense interaction, but it was more technical, where R&D used to explain to him what we were doing. But the belief session, which was his favorite, and that was a big one. Now, in one of those belief sessions, a salesperson very passionately, he said, do you know, sir, that in Wipro Systems was another Wipro organization. We were working for Wipro Infotech. That in Wipro Systems, they buy HCL machines. And to us, that was the ultimate sacrilege, because HCL was our biggest competitor, and Wipro Systems is buying HCL machines for their internal purpose. And obviously, the salesperson was very angry, and he thought that Mr. Premji will be angry. Now, Mr. Premji gave a very calm answer. He said that every group in Wipro, every business unit in Wipro is free to take their own decisions. And then to rub salt into the wound, he made another point. If they don't find your machine competitive enough, they will not buy it. So those were some very good management lessons very early on. Later, sometime in the 90s, Wipro got into finance, and there was a company called Wipro Finance. And you would know that many of you who tracked Wipro from the 90s would know that this was one unsuccessful venture of Wipro. It didn't do well. And there was one friend and colleague of mine who stood up in one of those meetings, question answer sessions. He stood up and very passionately said that, you know what, I advised, my father-in-law wanted to make some investment, and I advised him to buy these Wipro finance bonds, and now those have flopped, and I'm so embarrassed about it. Now, but Mr. Premji was not embarrassed about it. He said, he addressed the whole crowd out there. I tell you, never ever recommend a Wipro product out of sentiment. You should first evaluate whether it is the best in the market, and only then you should recommend. Otherwise, do not recommend. Now, these were some of the lessons that I grew up with, and I think they stood us they formed a very good foundation for our career, and in fact for our life. A lot of people, senior people, including Ashok Soota, who was the CEO of Wipro Infotech, used to give recommendations for recruitment. Now, we did not have to take anybody in, and we would just send a message to Ashok Soota or whoever it is. I'm just taking that name because he was the chief. That, okay, we did not find him or her suitable for such reasons, and that was completely okay. Those days, I recall, it may be happening even now, that very often a minister's recommendation will come. Karnataka government minister's recommendation will come, and we will come back with the same response. We will not have the compulsion to recruit. Now, these were some of the values really that I grew up with. 30 years now, one of my biggest inspirations, and he's like more like an elder brother now, has been Subroto Bagchi. Now, he again was extremely, he dealt with people not as a boss, but as an elder brother. Mm, uh, And once I remember, I was in a customer location, and I had a bad meeting with a customer, and I was extremely unhappy, and I called him up. He was in some other location. I called him up and expressed my emotions. The next morning, he calls me, and then he says I could not sleep last night. Now, I didn't expect that. And after that, and we had some small conversation, and I was okay with it. I was through with it. So by the afternoon, the customers organization, that manager, he comes and he apologizes to me. And and this was something completely unexpected. Now, these were examples actually, that kept a deep impression on me. Anytime I had a problem, I was critical with Wipro. I would go to Dr. Mitta, who was the senior most person. He was the CTO and the senior most person after Mr. Ashok Suta. And his doors were open for anybody. I would go to him, and then he would explain. And then I will come back convinced about whatever was going on. So uh, I want to make these points because when I discuss with people nowadays about creating a harmonious environment, about having an open environment, about trust in the system, about treating your colleagues like family members, about getting into their personal issues and trying to see how you can resolve those. Now, people believe that all this is not possible. Now, I want to say that I have lived it, and I know that it is possible. And we did it while delivering business. It's not that the business closes down. Now, in this slide, I'm just summarizing, some of the points I feel that made Wipro at those during the decades of 80s and 90s. People mattered. There was objectivity, there was fairness, there was fact-centered responses. We were highly target focused. We were people focused, and I know that it is possible to be target focused at the same time. And we wanted to be a leader in whatever we do. And at that time, we were clearly market leaders in whatever areas we were working in. And we cared a lot for people, and that they must learn and grow. With this, I will come to today. I started with the 80s. I'll come to today. Now, I believe we are in a changing society. In 1980s, it was a scarcity driven society, and I'll explain what I mean. And those of you who grew up in the 70s or 80s will understand immediately what I mean. The 90s were the information era. India was getting exposed to the information era and the powers of information. I myself started using email in 1990, but I think I was ahead of the curve there. But most Indians were using email by the 90s. Then the decade of 2000s, I would describe as the abundance era. Now, what is now called the economic liberalization of the 90s made a lot of Indians very affluent. We had a 300 million middle class. We had lots of choices. And that was the decade of 2000. The last decade that we just crossed, I would say, is the era of information abundance. And we have all enjoyed that, and we have all been victims of that. And part of that, and most of my talk, will dwell on that. Part of that information abundance has been provided by companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, WhatsApp, and so on. Now, how is it going to be in the next decade? I won't go much into that, and that's the subject probably of another talk. Now, let me explain what I mean by an abundant society. Everything is available in abundance. Now, when you go to buy a toothpaste or soap, you find there are 40 kinds available, and that makes it very difficult to make the right choice. The same can be true with people as well. For one vacant position, there will be 1,000 CVs, and that's not necessarily a good thing. How do I choose the right person from among 1000 CVs? I know how to choose the right person from 5 CVs, 10 CVs, maybe maximum 20 CVs. But how do I choose the right person from 1000 CVs? Now, just to be clear, it was not always like this. As a kid, we had two choices of toothpaste. I can remember Colgate and Binaka. And even 20 years back or 25 years back, we had two choices of cars, Maruti 800 and Maruti Esteem. That's it. And probably our budget decided which one we will get. In the early 80s or 70s, of course, you had only Ambassador. Other than cities like Bombay, you had only Ambassador, and that too black color. Now, so this kind of abundance that we have today, we need to be sure we did not enjoy it all the time. uh, Now, the point I would have is that the rules for success in an abundant society are different from the rules of success in a scarcity driven society. Now, culture does not change as easily as technology. Culture does not change as easily as the consumer industry and the choices it offers. So very often I believe that we are chained by the mindsets and culture of the old era, which was the scarcity driven era. Now we need to see what the new rules are. But before we get to those new rules and what's happening, I must say that yes, we need to enjoy the abundance era. We are blessed to be living at this moment in history. For anybody has a choice of 200 jobs, he may not get any of them, but there's a choice of 200 jobs. When I did my master's in computer science at IIT Kanpur, and I had only two constraints. I said I will work in India, and I will work in operating systems. That's all. And I had a choice of only two jobs, or two jobs that I knew at that time, HCL and Wipro, and I joined one of them. That's not the situation today. Uh, um, of course, there's Google, Facebook, Maps, mobile phone. They are helping us. And on anything that you can think of, any product that you can think of, you have a variety of choices. Today, Amazon or Flipkart or other sites are also making it easy for us to get those choices sitting at our home. Now, the flip side, we need to understand everyone else is also enjoying the abundance era. Now, you are being Googled. And see, when I grew up, my father used to say that first impression lasts long. So the first time you meet somebody, it's a very important meeting. You need to ensure that that impression is a good impression. But I realized with time that people make their impressions even before the first meeting. And this happened during an interview when I tried to introduce myself. It was a very senior person in Infosys whom we were interviewing, and she said, "No, I know you." Now, then I was first shocked, and then I was embarrassed. I thought that maybe I have met her somewhere, some meeting, some conference, and then I have forgotten. And so I asked her, "Where did I meet you?" He said, "No, I have not met you." "So how do you know me?" "No, I have Googled you." Now, and then I became very uncomfortable. The first thing, so I was waiting for the interview to be over. First thing I did was I went to my room and I Googled for myself. Now, what is she going to see? Now, and that's a very important thing. So we need to Google. We need to Google for ourselves. And does Google give us the information? Give them the image, give the world the image that we want us to be seen? And that's a very tall order. See, I sometime in 2012, when I left the industry and I joined education, I forgot to update my LinkedIn. Before that, I used to update. And then sometime in 2017 or 18, I was invited to a Ashoka Foundation dinner. And there were supposed to be some 10 people in the dinner and some intense discussion. And the day before, the morning of the dinner, I find that they have sent a message to all the all the participants, giving their profiles. And in that, there is my profile, which I did not want to see. So I was very upset with the person who sent the mail, and I said, "Why didn't you ask me before sending my profile?" She told, "No, that is there in your LinkedIn." So, and she was not apologetic at all. So we need to be clear that people will make their impressions, and if I forget to update my LinkedIn, that's my problem, not anybody else's. There are other problems, and the most embarrassing of them could be, people, the world today knows about your spouse's birthday before you do. and everybody is welcoming her or him happy birthday or happy anniversary, and you have forgotten. Now these can be very embarrassing moments. It also means that you are becoming commodity. You are easily accessible. You are just like anybody else. That special nature is going away. And how do we keep that? We all love being special. How do we? And we all love other people feeling special. So how do we keep that up? And that's a challenge. Now it also means your juniors and students know the latest information before you do, because, and I'll come to more of that, but they are smart at Googling, smarter than people of our age or older than at Googling, and they probably know a lot more than we do. Not to talk of the big companies watching you every moment. Now, you think Facebook or Google are benign companies, they are giving you everything for free, but they know more about you than your mother does. And that, or your spouse does, and that's that's again the subject of another discussion. Won't dwell much on that, but that's a terrifying feeling, and we need to be aware of that. So the abundance also means there's a proliferation of knowledge providers. We know there are far too many colleges which have proliferated in the last 20 years. Colleges and universities, there are thousands of them, and not all of them are like a college or university we thought of should be, based on our impression of 50s, 60s, or 70s. There are lots and lots of training institutes, because these colleges will produce unemployed and unemployable graduates, and then it's a field day for the training institutes. And of course, there are lots and lots of motivational speakers, because it's very easy to be a motivational speaker there. You just Google for motivational speech, it will download a PPT for you, it will download a motivational song for you, and your 50-60 minutes of routine is extremely easy. There's also a proliferation of books, some 2000 management books, and my data is outdated. I don't read so many books today, but some 2000 management books used to be published some time back, say 5 years or 10 years back, every year. Obviously, no human being can read 2000 management books in a year. Now that becomes a challenge. It's great that so many books are there. Now, is so much real insights or new knowledge is coming? Probably not. Maybe 5 of those 2000 books are great. How do you know which 5 books to read? And that's a challenge, and you need to stay with that challenge. So it's not that you should just read any book that comes your way. Now, here I would just present some aspects of life that can get difficult, and I'll touch upon 5 of them. Most of you would have experienced many of them, or all of them. One is surprises are not surprises. Earlier, I used to enjoy calling up somebody on his or her birthday, and they will be extremely happy that I remembered them on their birthday. Now, today, they just believe. Today, of course, Facebook gives an advance intimation that please wish so and so. I'm not on Facebook. I went out of it long back. But, a week in advance, they will tell, please wish so and so. So there's a kind of social pressure to wish. But even before that, when automation came in, people used to think that, oh, I am keeping a good calendar and automating well. No, I used to remember, and they were special to me. Now, so how do you keep those? How do you keep those specials? Maybe 15, maybe 20, more than 20 years back, I think my organization, first Wipro, then Mindtree, they started having a birthday cake, and people used to feel happy. Later, we found out that if you've forgotten the birthday cake, now people feel unhappy. So see, certain things which were really, really pleasant long back now have forgotten, have lost their charm today. Then the next thing is what I call the tyranny of the majority. Now, on paper, everything is democratic. Amazon or Google or whoever else have democratized. You can publish anything, and that can be up there. You can write your blog. But then if I'm searching for something, and if it doesn't come in the first screen, and if I'm just too patient enough, maybe I look at the second screen or the third screen. If it doesn't come in the first 20, 30 entries, then I'm not present. So how do I get on top? It's the same problem. It's the same problem as getting onto a bookshelf in the bookstores. You have the same problem out here. It's the same for not just for books or articles. It's the same for any product that you have. And now there will be advertisements and people will come in. The other problem of the majority, and this I'll explain some 15 years back. Today it's much worse. That in the morning I would look at the news on my phone, and then I would think that okay, by the evening I will go and respond. By the time it's the evening and I respond, I see that the comments. There are many comments that have got 200 likes or further comments, and if I put in a comment now, I just don't have a chance. The idea of the maximum likes coming in, and why does a comment get a like? Because it touches the emotions of the majority of people. Now I want to see those comments which are different, which give a different perspective. Now they'd be somewhere in the bottom of the heap. It's very, very difficult to find them. Now that becomes so, so if I want to find a different perspective, or if I have a different perspective, my needs are different, it's very difficult to become visible. We need to understand that, despite all the talk of democracy that we talk about. And in this situation, fakes abound. Isko viral karna hai. Now that's a common statement that we hear nowadays. So we have to package it right, and it becomes viral. So on the other hand, and this is where the problem comes. If you really have to research on an area, you have to gather the data. Maybe you will take 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, and nobody has patience for that. On the other hand, somebody is doing a superficial analysis, or is coming up with some fake data, concocted data. And we saw in the last 6 months of the pandemic also a whole lot of it happening. Now they always get prime of place, and before somebody else points out it's a fake, they move on to creating the next fake data. This one is more for millennials. Digital memory is bad for the reason that there is no forget ever. What I feel good about today is that when I was a 20-year-old, I had a lot of fights with my friends. I had a lot of opinions which I feel embarrassed about today, but we have forgiven and forgotten. Okay, today you need to be clear that if you are putting your opinion out there, now it will stay there forever, and it could dog you sometime in future. You may have moved away from that opinion. At different times in my life, I have been a capitalist, I have been a communist, I have supported different political parties from Congress to BJP to AAP. Now, and those views I might have expressed. Now, and I might have moved on in my life, but digital memory will not allow you to move on. People will dig out things from the past, and we need to be very clear about what we are talking, what we are writing. Everything is public. Finally, the problem is of fast changing paradigms. The attention of people keeps changing. The windows of opportunity keeps changing. Now, you cannot say that I will not take this opportunity. But it means that, so because if you take a lot of time to evaluate the opportunity will disappear. So it means that you have to take risks. So we need to know what risks we must take and what risks we must not take. The challenge in modern society is, abundance of knowledge that is touted as a very big positive. However, we need to understand that there's more wisdom than we can absorb. Google will return you 1 million links. How does that matter? I actually wanted that one specific answer to my question. I would ask a certain question on Quora, and there are so many wise people who will give me so many views. I want to know what exactly is right for me. I have got 70% in maths, and I want to still get into engineering. Tell me that engineering college which is good for me, or that engineering discipline that is good for me. So, this abundance of knowledge does not really help me. It also means, see, I always have a sense of loss, and there is low attention span. The old days of Doordarshan or 2 Doordarshan channels, we watched a movie completely. Now, how many of us really honestly can say that we watched a movie on TV completely? By the time commercials comes, we want to know what's going on in another channel. Again, I want to say, on the other hand, supposedly, and it's true, not just supposedly, that there are no barriers to access. A student in a small town in Odisha can correspond with a professor in MIT, Stanford, Oxford, wherever else. And it's quite likely that that person will reply. On the other hand, and the person also has 500 Facebook friends or LinkedIn connections. On the other hand, we have too few friends who will be there with us when we have a specific problem. These two together, do not help us in decision making. And combined with experts having too little time, us having too little personal guidance. So, and when we are confused in decision making, three things happen. One is we decide based on numbers. Individuals decide based on numbers, corporates decide based on numbers, and those numbers, they come in different ways, but we decide based on numbers. We focus on speed over substance, because as I said, substance takes time to create and the world moves on. We don't have attention span over months, and so we focus on speed, and that means we have a short term focus. Now these have consequences. Short term focus is good if you are playing T20 cricket, but otherwise they have their consequences. Now, I would like to say, and that is where I want to go back to my foundational career in Wipro, that some of the old world wisdom still works in this changing world. And what are some of the old world wisdom? We have heard it from our parents or grandparents when we grew up. Hard work pays, do your homework. Homework here is a metaphor, not just the school homework. Focus on action, not results. That's the core of our philosophy. Care for others, don't be deluded by envy or greed. Again, all of these have been core to our essence of being Indian. Remain honest to yourself. One man's meat is another man's poison. What I mean is, if this works for you, it is not necessary that it will work for me, but sharing still helps. So planning is your future is still important, even though everything looks like short term now. And because things are uncertain, the need to plan is even more. That's a point that I would like to stress. In the past, things moved more slowly. If you didn't plan so well, maybe it didn't matter so much. Today it matters a lot, because there are far too many events happening, far too many distractions that are happening. And here, as I continue, I want to say that utopia is not just possible as in the old world wisdom. I have lived it. I have lived it in Wipro's R&D in the 80s, in the 90s. So I know it is possible. So we cannot say that, no, all that does not apply. All that does not happen. With that, let us discuss, what could be some of our strategies. Now, Howard Gardner, in his book, 5 Minds for the Future, this was more than 10 years back, and for him the future was the decade that is just over. But I find this really a perennial lesson. He talks of 5 minds for success. The first one is the disciplined mind. By discipline here, he means discipline as in electrical engineering or law or commerce, not the school discipline. And there we learn that, it's not easy to be an expert in a discipline, and it takes 10 years or 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours is a term by Malcolm Gladwell that it takes. So we got to be patient, we got to be persistent. And once you are an expert, you have created a high entry barrier for other people to be coming and equaling you. Then the synthesizing mind. There are too many events happening, too many patterns happening. How do you sift the signal from the noise? Now, how do you understand patterns? That's what the synthesizing mind is about. Creative mind, we understand, we will not dwell on that. But I need to dwell on the next two, respectful mind. We need to be open, we need to respect others, we need to, listen to different perspectives of people. And it's a complex world, and there is not one truth. And to be successful, we need to be open to others' views. We need to be respectful to people. And finally, ethical mind. We need to meet commitments. People believe today that, okay, I can shoot and run, and people won't discover, and people are looking at life as a series of transactions. But what the Google world is doing, what the LinkedIn world is doing, and I told you that digital memory, is not erased. So people in the past, you could con people in one city and then move on to another city. Now that is not possible. You could go anywhere in the world and your reputation will follow you. So ethics is becoming more, ethics and trust and dependability are becoming more important than ever before. This is an interesting quote. A good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be. That means you have to go and anticipate the future. And now, while I talked of some of the old world wisdom, as I grew up, I felt that there were certain things that have not been taught, that have not been taught traditionally, and which are very, very important today. That you need to explore, you need to stay curious, question everything, introspect, find your purpose. I've talked about this. We need to remain flexible, but we need to be clear. We cannot be flexible on everything. Then people will push us around on what are our non-negotiables and what we are flexible about. We need to be clear on that. We need to build deep relationships. These will not show results immediately. These will show results 10, 20, 30 years later, but we need to invest on them today. Mistakes are a way to learn. I talked of risks. If you are afraid of mistakes, you will not take risks. If you don't take risks, you will pass, the opportunities will pass you by. So you have to be comfortable with mistakes, and you have to learn from mistakes. And those are areas to learn from. And why I say don't blame others. If you don't blame others, you are not taking accountability for your decisions. So you have to, even if somebody fooled you, okay, your mistake was that you trusted that person. And how do you stop yourself from trusting similar persons later? So don't ever blame others. Then that's the stop for that's the end to learning. If you are in a court and you go and blame others, that's a different matter. But in your life, for your day-to-day decisions, for day-to-day mistakes, take responsibility. Don't blame others. Diverse exposure enhances success. Now, again, it's a complex world. The more we listen to other perspectives, better off we are. I talked of taking risks. I need to say that predictability is valued. Everybody, even it's an unpredictable world, and that's even more reason why predictability is a big virtue. So if in an unpredictable world, other people are unpredictable, you are predictable to others, people are going to depend on you. The inspired rather than the cynic wins. In our society, it is very easy to say kuch nahi hoga, and you go and blame everybody. Now that actually is not constructive, because it doesn't take us anywhere. We need optimists, we need inspiration. People love positive energy, and those are the people who will get followers, who will break barriers, who will do something in life. I talked of abundance. Now here specifically, there's abundance of new knowledge, abundance of new technologies, abundance of new opportunities. We know this, so I'll not dwell on that. And what are some new technologies? Almost everything today is, is centered around mobile, internet, automation. So if we want to be at the edge of innovation, now these are three things that we need to look at. Now I talked of synthesizing mind, and I thought that I'll explain this. When SMS came in, mobile and SMS came in. I was an email guy from the 90s, and I bought my first mobile sometime in 99. And somehow this SMS idea I didn't like, because you have to express your views in 140 characters. You cannot organize the SMS. You cannot send a group reply. You cannot send a group message, and so on. And somehow I did not like SMS. And then, there was T20. I did not like it. I still don't like it, but I saw that it was a great hit, just like SMS was a hit in the early days. Now, Mindtree itself was producing Bluetooth, and we had the smallest Bluetooth stack in the world. And at that time, we were the largest independent vendor of Bluetooth. Now, what was then? I started thinking, what is common to this? Common to this, all of these, is smallness. People like smallness. People like simplicity. That wins. The beauty of SMS is there are no frills. Email is complex. So once I understood this, now I go after anything small. So once WhatsApp came, I had similar similar problems, similar criticism, that you can't organize WhatsApp. It moves away too fast. But I realized this is going to be a success because of its simplicity. The same thing for Twitter. So I'm just giving an example here of how we can make patterns, and we can find out what is signal, what is noise. And that's an example of synthesizing. Now, in the era of knowledge abundance, there are 4 concerns that you need to keep in mind. We all keep reading whatever somebody else sends us on Facebook or WhatsApp. And I would be personally very against that. I believe that's a waste of time. And we need to ask, how much of that knowledge is useful or even authentic? Is it right for my context? What should I learn? Why am I not able to make use of this? And the pandemic, see, when I say uncertain era, we are in an uncertain era, I don't mean just the pandemic. We are going through an uncertain era for a long time. Next era, next 10 years also will be uncertain for a variety of reasons. Now, but the pandemic is a good example. In the last 6 months, so many people have given us so many solutions, either to boost our immunity or as cure. Now, we know there are lots of people who have followed and still have got COVID. Okay, there are lots of people who have made predictions from a medical angle, predictions from an astrology angle, predictions from some other angle, that from this date it will be over, and it is still not over. Now, one thing about predictions, I can say that it's the past predictions are all good. The difficult thing about predictions is to make about the future. So be respectful of all the past predictions, but don't believe the future ones. So what are some survival strategies? I believe agility is a big survival strategy. Remain open to decision changes at the last moment. It's a fast changing world. Now, don't be rigid in your decision or sit on your ego. I made that decision, I will continue. Things are changing. You have to change. This is true in personal life. This is true in business. Master the basics. Now, we all talk of knowledge obsolescence, but one thing I have noticed as a student and as a teacher is that the old knowledge stays longer. The most recent knowledge becomes obsolete faster. So there seems to be a law out there. There's in the computer software world, there's something called stack, last in, first out. That seems to be true for knowledge obsolescence. So some of the old world wisdom, even in your respective subjects and disciplines, that what was most of what you studied 50 years back probably hold good even today. Now, there are some disruptive technologies that will come and where this will not work. For example, battery operated cars. Yes, that's a disruptive technology. AI and machine learning coming in. So in industry, certain disruptive things will come, and this will not be true. But by and large, the flavor of the season will become obsolete faster. And if you don't know where you are going, any road will do. So do you know your purpose? Do not go and join that course because a seat is available. Buy that product because they are giving a discount. So do you really need it? Do you really want it? Okay, so that is something that you need to know. And so again, repeatedly, if I'm making a point, you should know your purpose. That purpose becomes your anchor. Everything else, anything that aids your purpose, that is your signal. Anything else is a distraction, that is noise. We move on to towards the closing stages of this discussion. I'll ask you a question. Do millennials learn differently? Most of us here are not millennials, but we have sons, daughters, nephews, nieces who are, or students who are millennials. What do you do, for example, when you forget your Shakespeare or your poetry? Now, many of you would have read this poem, Tiger, Tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. Now, you have forgotten some words. You read this when you were 10 years old. You have forgotten these lines. What will you do now? How will you try to remember those lines? Okay. What do you do when your computer or mobile phone does not function right? Okay. I used to see a manual. That's what I was taught when I studied engineering. What will you do if you want to plan a trip to a new city, say Pune? You have been invited to speak to a group of students next week on how Apple came into music. You have no clue. How will you proceed? Now, as you would have understood, the answer to all of these is that the millennials will Google. Now, do we Google? Google becomes a fast, good way to get information very quickly. It's not the end all. It's not the last step in knowledge, but it's a very good first step in knowledge. We need to understand that and take advantage of that. Am I visible with people?
Yeah, you're visible.
Yes, visible.
Yeah. Okay. Huh.
But the time, sir, you should keep in mind.
Yeah. I'll try to close. Yes, right. See, I just wanted to discuss some communications intuition. Okay, in the current uncertain era. First, anything that can be Googled has been Googled. So do not try to Google and give information. Okay. Also understand that other people are Googling. Now, we have started a new school and we are recruiting teachers for that. And very often they come and tell things exactly, and we think that this is exactly the teacher we want. And then we realize that she has just read our website well and is repeating the information that we have put about our mission vision. Okay, so this is something that we need to be clear about. Everybody else is also Googling. Fake info is created faster than fact-based content. Now, I have touched upon this. It takes a lot more time. Many of you are academicians here. You know how much trouble and rigor and challenging it is to write a paper. So fact-based contents, it's very difficult to create. Now, fake info is very easy. I can sit here and next 2 hours, I can create my data. So fake info, there will be a lot more on the internet than fact-based content. One needs to understand that. I also see that those who are experts, real experts, they spend less time on the internet. They spend less time commenting elsewhere. So it is not a it is by design that there'll be more superficial info, there'll be more fake info which is free out there. So we need to understand that. Positive thinking messages are always attractive. Now, this is a message that keeps coming on WhatsApp every day with a good morning. Now, you just need to think it up and you can do it. Believe in your inner power. Now, yes, please believe in your inner power, but you also need to work hard. You also need to plan well. You also need to know where the world is going. You also need to know what your customer wants. Just positive thinking alone is not enough. But the problem is that when I tell people you have to work hard, that's not very popular. Somebody else tells you think positive and you are there, that is likely to be more attractive. False prophets cannot be beaten in fan following. You need to understand that. If you are committed to, if you are grounded in reality, if you are committed, if you are making promises that you are committed to, then there are certain constraints that are there. You cannot be as attractive. On the other hand, a false prophet is one who does not believe in the promises that he or she is making, and has no such constraint that okay, I'll have to do whatever I am telling. Now they can always be very, very attractive. So here, this is an unequal battle that you are having. Don't complain about it. You have chosen your path, the false prophet or real mentor, and it depends. So you should know the reality of that path. Catchy phrases can delude like once in a lifetime. My principle has been, if it's once in a lifetime, I don't want it, let somebody else enjoy it. And most often you will not regret it. Go beyond rituals and compliance, think purpose. In many things we have gone, we have been lost in rituals. Now, school, the purpose is education. Students should think, students should be a good citizen. But to do that, we have 40-hour classes, 40-minute classes. Teachers go through so much rigor. There is ERP software and so on. And are we getting lost in the rituals? We need to understand that. In a similar manner, in the temple with all the rituals, are we forgetting God? Okay, so we need to be clear about our purpose, and these rituals should serve us. Rituals are important, compliance is important. They should serve us in meeting our purpose. Otherwise, they are distractions. Finally, I would like to say everybody wants an easy path, and everybody, lot of people, not everybody, lot of false prophets will promise you an easy path. Now, easy is not easy. We need to understand that. See, there was a time when Java was the easy route to a job. The problem is then 2 million people in India, they learn Java, and you don't have 2 million jobs. So if something is really that easy, everybody will run after it, and that makes it a very difficult job. So better create those things. Spend your 10,000 hours of training or research and be an expert. Create entry barriers. Go after the difficult. Yeah, this is more a summary. Standardization is a very attractive term, but we also want local. We want to go vocal about local. Now we need to understand these two conflict with each other. One nation, one test. I'm having some education examples because of the education audience. Now, one nation, one test. That's a very good slogan. But what about inclusion? Why should the test that I am giving be designed by the elite in Delhi? Now, that's the point that you need to think. And if I am subjective myself in a game where the rules of the game are created by the elite in Delhi, Bombay, or Bangalore, now what chance do I stand? Uh, Annual appraisals, are they important? Is that ritual important, or learning and growth is important? Sometimes the conflict, learning and growth conflicts with the annual appraisal, and they create a pretty toxic feeling between supervisor and supervisee. Same thing with 360-degree feedback. Again, we want an environment with open views. If 360-degree feedback is helping them, that's great. Clear roles and KRAs, do they help us in meeting the business goals and shared goals, or they create silos, they create constraints, and one role keeps fighting with another role? In our target to have foolproof exams, means objective, one correct answer, the answers cannot be disputed, are we coming in the way of learning? Because at the frontiers of knowledge, there will be answers that can be disputed. There may be no one clear way to proceed. So what do we want? We want people to play at the frontiers of learning, or we want foolproof exams. We want an abundance of views and news, versus which Google gives a million views, versus the one view that I need to take my next decision. We want things to be easy, or we want growth and fulfillment. Now, these are important decisions, or important choices on which we need to have clarity. Now, very often people have said, I just want to dwell a little bit, people say that life is a marathon. Now, from my experience, I see that life is a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes life gives you something, marathon means things happen sequentially. Now, everybody's life does not happen at the same sequence. Now, sometimes life gives me something which I would have deserved 10 years later, 20 years later. Can I take that gratefully and make sense out of it? Or I take that gratefully today and I'll make sense out of it later. So, summarizing, I would say you need to discover your purpose, take risks, you need to be agile in decision making, make mistakes. Easy is not easy. Hard work is the root. Age-old wisdom still works. And one thing that I didn't mention till now, find a mentor. I think that can be extremely useful. Quora cannot be your mentor. Facebook likes cannot be your mentor. Find a mentor who knows you, who cares for you. And finally, get into your customer's context, speak their language. That is, if you want to make an impression and gather a reputation, you have to serve other people, you have to serve their interests, not your interests. For that, you need to understand their context. This I have given because, people ask, tell me a book to read. So some books that have influenced me, which are good books, I am just putting out there. These are a different kind of variety. How will you measure your life? This is a very, very good book. I have gifted more than 200 copies of this book to different people at different times. Similarly, The Professional, that is the other book I have gifted to lots and lots of people. This is a very simple, easy to read book. The Religion of Man is a little deeper, but very interesting. It is a crowd of academics. If you have not read this book, I would suggest that, it is a very good book on society and social insights. 5 Minds for the Future, I mentioned that, and A Whole New Mind, the concept of abundance, I learned from Daniel Pink. Daniel Pink is known for motivation as well. He's a pretty well-known author. You can reach me at this is my email, mobile number. Thanks again for making me part of your learning community. My respect to this great man who has given me the opportunity to connect with all of you. I feel humbled when I listen to all the great admiration that you have expressed, and I wish every teacher, every parent actually become like him. Thank you.